Hello everyone and welcome back to this channel. In the last two ranking videos we covered all the LJN games for the NES and the Super Nintendo, and we did have some pretty decent games, but we also had some really bad games. So in today's video we are going to be ranking every LJN game for the Game Boy, and if you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button as it helps us the channel grow, and don't forget to hit the notification button for all future videos. Now, there were 18 games published by LJN on the Game Boy. So, let's begin. Alien 3. The gameplay of this variation of Alien 3 varies from platform to platform, and the Game Boy version is really different from the console versions. Unlike the more shooter-oriented action of the consoles, the Game Boy title is played from a top-down perspective with a greater emphasis on exploration, acquiring items to beat limited puzzles and survival. Ripley must survive the prison facility while solving puzzles and battling xenomorphs, facehuggers, and eventually a queen. Only after destroying the queen and her eggs may Ripley activate the crash escape pod and leave the planet. Honestly, I like the console versions. I like the Genesis, Nintendo, and the Super Nintendo, and I did not really care for this one too much. I'm gonna give this a D. Next up, Beetlejuice. This game is based off the anime series in the early 90s, not the movie. The gameplay here is pretty simple to figure. You take control of Beetlejuice and attempt to keep yourself alive and collect items throughout the old house. While you're trying to collect these items, you can collect tokens which will allow you to buy different powers that you can use on the roaming enemies that are seemingly endless. Once you have these powers, you can defeat your enemies. Then you are on a quest to find the items and figure out the lackluster puzzles scattered throughout the game. This game is different from the NES version, and I didn't care for the NES version, but actually this one actually was okay. I'm gonna give this a C. Bill and Ted's. There are time fragments and scatter them all across time. Now Bill and Ted must travel across time to retrieve the time fragments to prevent the future from altering. Each level takes place in a single screen. Players must collect scattered time fragments while jumping platforms, climbing ladders and ropes, and avoiding enemies. Because this is a Game Boy game, all sprites are very simplistic, as both Bill and Ted almost look identical. In addition, enemies are only different by their actions. This game is different from the NES version. The NES version I didn't like, and I actually had a little bit of fun with this one. I'm gonna give this a C. The Incredible Crash Dummies. This game plays different from the console versions. The Crash Dummies revolves around a dummy called Slick who wants to go on a holiday. So you're going to perform several highly dangerous stunts which will hopefully earn you enough cash to make that vacation possible. What this ultimately boils down to is that this game is essentially a collection of 5 mini games which you must be played 4 times in a row while the difficulty level increases accordingly. This game, like I said, it was differently from the console versions, but it wasn't bad. I'm gonna give this a C. NBA All-Star Challenge. This game, being a Game Boy game and an early one at that, is not that good. The best way to play defense is to simply jump when over the opposing player drives to the basket. By jumping, you will cause the other player to turn around and run away from that basket. The percentage of you making a shot are completely random. Stats and ratings are not an influence in this game. One will hit the same amount of 3-pointers with Larry Bird as they do with Michael Jordan. I didn't really have much fun with this one. I'm gonna give this a D. NBA All-Star Challenge 2. Honestly, for me, this game pretty much plays almost like the first game, and I didn't care for this one as much, and I'm just gonna give this a D. NFL Quarterback Club. The Game Boy version simulated the quarterback challenge and featured 13 quarterbacks, including Troy Aikman, Warren Moon, Jim Kelly, and John Elway. Players select one of them and compete in 4 different events representing different quarterback skills: speed and mobility, accuracy, distance, and read and recognition. And I didn't care for this one. I'm gonna give this a D. Next up, NFL Quarterback Club 2. This game lets you pick your real NFL team. You pick your team and play against an opponent like the first game, and I just didn't care for this one either. I'm gonna give this a D. Next up, Roger Clemens MVP Baseball. The gameplay here was really annoying. It felt like I had no control over the game, and this, more times than none, made me stop playing. The game doesn't respond fast enough, and it's extremely hard to actually do anything. The only thing I could do was actually hit the ball. Fielding was almost impossible, and this usually cost me the game. Yep, didn't like this one. I'm gonna give this a D. The Amazing Spider-Man. Spider-Man's most dangerous supervillains have discovered his secret identity, Peter Parker, and kidnapped his wife, Mary Jane. The action game takes the player through various city locations, battling an assortment of minor thugs, animals, and some supervillains: Mysterio, Hobgoblin, Scorpion, Rhino, Dr. Octopus, Venom. At the end of each level, who through cutscenes will taunt Spider-Man as the whereabouts of his wife. The controls I thought was kind of sluggish, and I honestly didn't have much fun with this. I'm gonna give this a D. Spider-Man 2. This is the second Spider-Man adventure on the Game Boy. One day, Peter Parker wakes up feeling not so well. Things turn worse for Peter when he picks up the morning paper and reads that Spider-Man has been accused of committing a robbery. So Spider-Man sets out on a quest to clear his name. Gameplay this time around is slightly deeper than their previous title. Controls for jumping, punching, and web slinging are similar, but now Spider-Man can pick up objects that allows him to perform certain actions. For example, in the first level, you need to find a key to unlock a door, and a can of oil to activate a hover bike. This game was a little bit better than the last game. I'm gonna give this a C. Now we have Spider-Man 3. The storyline in this game follows the comic book storyline that was being published at the same time. Spider-Man is being attacked by an assortment of high-tech robot spider slayers. As was the case in Spider-Man 2, the player had to control Spider-Man through various levels, fighting enemies and supervillains while trying to solve various types of puzzles. The first level, the player had to distinguish between criminals and the park, and men just reading newspapers in the park. Then after defeating enough thugs, the player has to manage several tricky web slings in order to get to the top of the building. This game, like the second game, it was okay. I'm gonna give this a C. Spider-Man and X-Men Arcade's Revenge. Like the console version, you start out as Spider-Man. The game tasks you with using his patented wall crawling and web slinging techniques to find and collect what seems to be burglared items. Not only that, you have to collect them in a specific order. The level may be easy, but the first time players will get stuck halfway through when you are required to climb up a wall. Spider-Man and X-Men is far from an easy game. Aside from a frustrating design and lack of continues, the stiff controls are unforgiving. Yet questionable collision detection contribute to the challenge. Mercilessly touching an enemy will cause your life bar to drop. And like the console version, I didn't like this one too much. I'm gonna give this a D. Next up, True Lies. True Lies is presented in a top-down perspective, character as well as his enemies are simply shown as a head and shoulders. As comical as it sounds and looks, if one uses his imagination, the game is quite similar to a first-person shooter. In addition, strafing is possible, as is the opportunity to collect different types of weapons. However, each weapon has its perks and downfalls, which are well balanced. You begin the game with a pistol which fires fast, but it's pretty weak. The submachine gun is stronger and fires quickly, but doesn't allow strafing. The shotgun is clumsy and slow, but powerful, and grenades are clumsy to use, and they're pretty dangerous. It is easy to see that there is quite a bit of depth packed into this little tiny game. And like the Super Nintendo game, I liked this. I thought it was actually kind of fun. I'm gonna give this a B. Next, WWF Superstars. WWF Superstars offers players 5 wrestlers to choose from: Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior, Mr. Perfect, and Ted DiBiase. The roster is small, but it's excusable given that this is the first WWF Game Boy game. Each wrestler plays the same and they all share the same moves. This is a simple game with only one match type, one-on-one tournament mode where the player battles their way to the top to be crowned the champion. A match can be won in either pinfall or countout. The player must reduce the opponent's energy meter low enough to score a win. There's a little bit of variety where the player can choose whether a tournament should end after 1 or 3 falls and be given 5, 10-minute lengths or no time limit at all. Before each match, the game provides short promos of both wrestlers talking trash to each other before they square off. And in this game, it was kind of fun. I'm gonna give this a C. WWF Superstars 2. The wrestlers you can choose from here are Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Sid Justice, The Mountie, The Undertaker, and Jake the Snake Roberts. When it comes to moves, they're like the first game, they're all exactly the same. There are a couple of different game modes to choose from. There's normal match, cage match, tag team match, and also tournament. In a normal match, you just need to bring your opponent's energy down and then pin him. In a cage match, that works too, but you can also climb at the top of the cage while your opponent's down and win that way. The tag team match is a 2-on-2 match. The tournament is a row of 5 matches against the wrestlers you didn't pick in character selection, and you can choose if you want to a cage match or a normal match. And like the last game, it was fun. I had fun with this. I'm gonna give this a C. Next, WWF King of the Ring. There are several gameplay modes to choose from: Singles, Championship, Tag Team, and King of the Ring Tournament mode. There are 9 wrestlers in this game. You got Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Lex Luger, Yokozuna, Razor Ramon, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, and Mr. Perfect. The gameplay during the matches is kinda limited. You can only do a body slam and a suplex out of the grapple, and the only other moves are drop kicks, elbows, and leg drops, and an elbow drop off the top turnbuckle. The game does add a versus mode where you can square off against your friend in a singles or tag team mode. And like the NES version, I did not have much fun with this at all. I'm gonna give this an F. And finally, we have WWF Raw. WWF Raw provides a good variety of game modes. Initially, the player can choose one-on-one, tag team, or Survivor Series. Going deeper, the player has the option of one fall, brawl, or tournament. There are 8 wrestlers in the Game Boy version. There's Lex Luger, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Diesel, Doink, The Undertaker, and Yokozuna. Choosing a wrestler is purely cosmetic, as they all share the same wrestling maneuvers. There are no finishers in this version of WWF Raw. The gameplay in Raw imitates its console counterpart, including animations. The face buttons are responsible for punching and kicking. Pressing both face buttons will make the wrestler lock up and go into a tug of war with a small meter appearing above the wrestler when it occurs. Repeatedly pressing the D-pad and the face button will fill the meter on the player's side and allow the player's wrestlers to execute a move. And I still really enjoyed the WWF Raw for the consoles, but this version, I did not have fun with this one. I just didn't like it, and I am going to give this a D. And there you have it, the 18 games published by LJN for the Game Boy. What would you do differently? Like, how would you rank them differently? Would you give any of these an S, or would you give all these an F? I would love to hear from you, and please leave comments below to share your thoughts. And that would do it for this video. And again, I'm just having a blast doing these, and I'm going to try to get another one out next month. I think I might be doing Capcom for the Nintendo. I'm not really sure. But until next video, peace out.